Girlies, there are some plants that I wouldn't even recommend to my greatest enemy in life. I wouldn't even recommend that plant to them. So I'm surprised that some of these plants are in your collections. I'm like, do you not love yourselves? Do you not love your peace of mind? But don't worry, girlies, I've got you as usual. In my book, in this blue book, once you see this book, you know that some plants are about to be exposed for what they really are. In this blue book of exposés, I'm going to be exposing plants that I will not recommend to my enemies. But we're going to be doing things a bit more differently this time around because, we've matured. We're now mature and we're a bit more graceful about how we go about these things. So I'm going to actually be exposing specific plants because I feel like sometimes some of these plants give the entire genus a bad rap. Okay, and we've talked about this before on this page. We're not out here to be demonizing the entire genus. We're just out here to expose specific plants in those genus you should be wary of, okay? And we're going to be providing alternatives. You see what we're doing? We're not just exposing and slandering, we're also providing better alternatives, okay? So without much ado, grab someone, grab something, grab hopes, grab yourself, grab your pals. And let's get to the nitty-gritty. The first plant that definitely needs to be exposed is the Alocasia jaclyn. Do not let the cute name of this plant and the beauty of this plant deceive you. This plant is a difficult plant for everyone, even those that have the greenest of thumbs. There is no plant granny, there is no plant elderly, there is no plant icon. Yes, even for icons like myself, there is no one that has a thriving looking specimen of this plant. This plant either dies 7 working days after you bring it into your home, or if it manages to survive, it never goes past 2 leaves or 3 leaves. So this plant is definitely not for the weak. Even the name Alocasia jaclyn is shrouded in controversy. I think the name has officially been changed because there was some controversy about the person the plant was named after, the jaclyn lady that claimed to have discovered the plant. You can Google the full gist on that. But even the name of the plant is shrouded in controversy and difficulty, so it is no surprise that the plant itself is difficult, okay? But as we have talked about on this page and this channel, if you still want to go about buying any one of these plants I have mentioned in this video, I mean, you can. You're an adult at the end of the day. You pay your own bills. But like I would advise, always buy them cheap. Never buy them expensive. If that Alocasia jaclyn is more than $15, excuse me, no. Also, when you do buy them or any one of these plants I'm going to mention, just treat them as cut flowers, okay? Let them surprise you if they live more than 15 working days, but just treat them as cut flowers and whatever happens, happens. Now, alternatively, if you're hell-bent on getting an Alocasia, because Alocasias are beautiful, but they can be very difficult. For the most part, they're not beginner-friendly plants. But if you're hell-bent on getting an Alocasia, I would strongly advise you start with the Alocasia Frydek or the Alocasia Amazonica. I have 2 of those currently in my care. I mean, they're not the easiest, but when it comes to the Alocasia genus, you can start with those 2 and then gradually work your way up to the more pricier and more difficult ones. But this Alocasia jaclyn needs to be exposed for what it really is. By the way, if you're wondering what this is for the mosquitoes. This is for the Nigerian mosquitoes. It's the rainy season in this part of the world, and these Nigerian mosquitoes are hell-bent on feasting on me. So the next plant on this list it's a genus that has a reputation for being beautiful but difficult. But like I said, we're not going to demonize the entire genus this time around. Ladies and gentlemen, Calathea, I cannot pronounce the name of the plant, and I could care less if I did, because this plant is so beautiful. Not only is the variegation and the patterning of the leaves exquisite, chef's kiss, but it has this velvet beautiful feel, and then the underside of the leaves are just a beautiful burgundy. That said, this is a difficult plant too. There is no one that I know of alive currently on this earth. There is no one that I know of, and I'm sure that is the case for you, that has a full lush specimen of this plant. this is a plant that when it gets into the care of most people, regardless of how iconic they are and their green thumbs are, it's a constant roller coaster ride with them. One moment the plant is thriving, next moment it's looking like it needs help. But at the end of the day, I think we are the ones that set up ourselves for failure as as houseplant collectors, because these plants in the wild don't even look nice. These plants in the wild look busted and crusted. So why do we always want to ensure that they look perfect in our care? I don't think this is a plant that is programmed to look perfect. I don't think this is a Calathea you buy if you want it to always look nice all year round. If your goal is that I want a plant that looks lush and beautiful all year round, this is not it. Because what I will say about Calatheas, regardless of how difficult they are, is they have very strong root systems. So even though the plant looks completely busted, the roots will always be healthy. And then when you cut them and even discard them, they surprisingly just bounce back. Okay. And that is especially true for this plant. She is not going to look beautiful in your collection all year round, and she's going to look like a hot mess, and she's going to have you questioning your sanity. However, if you're hell-bent on getting a Calathea, and you want a Calathea that, for the most part looks beautiful all year round, can even take this dangerous heat and sun I have in my country. I mean, if this plant can survive the outdoors in this oven of a country that I live in, I'm sure it will do well in your care as well. The Calathea makoyana. She's beautiful. In my opinion, she's one of the most beautiful Calatheas there is. Beautiful, has been with me for years now. We're going to be 5 years this year. I highly recommend her. Highly recommend. Okay, get that one. It's a better alternative. Or there's another Calathea that I have that just popped up as a weed in my snake plant and was competing with an actual snake plant, to show you how rugged that Calathea is. I don't know the name, but she just grows like an aggressive weed. I would strongly recommend that Calathea if you are hell-bent on getting Calathea. So yes, but the Calathea, it's a strong no from me, love. The next one is a Variegated Ficus triangularis. This plant is proof that not all plants like to be variegated. Some plants do not like it, they don't want it, they are like, please. And this plant is living proof that it doesn't like to be variegated. Okay, now the problem with this plant is that it is notorious for shedding leaves. It sees the variegation on its leaves as a defect or as a burden. So whenever the plant is stressed, or whenever the plant is subjected to inadequate care, inadequate light, inadequate watering, whatever it may be, the first response is, I'm going to shed these leaves. I'm going to shed these variegated leaves. They are, they are a burden to me. And that is what typically happens. People bring this plant into their care, they move it from 1 centimeter to the other, it immediately starts shedding leaves. I have actually grown a non-variegated one of this plant, and it grows like a weed. Even indoors, it grows like a weed. The only downside is that it does look a bit fugly and it's hard to style. It doesn't look the best. If we're being honest, the variegated counterpart looks a lot better. That's the truth of the matter. But that one is a lot more stable. Like, it never shed leaves for me except when it was subjected to extreme drought. Never. But this one was just always shedding leaves. However, I know someone that actually persevered with this plant, and she grew hers into a full, beautiful, mature specimen. And she told me that the more mature this plant is, the more stable it becomes. The more it develops a root system, the more mature it is, the more stable it becomes, the more it begins to accept its variegated status. So if you're insisting on getting a Variegated Ficus triangularis, if you can ensure that it reaches maturity, then it's going to be a bit more stable. Okay, but if you do not have the time and the energy, and you want to maintain your sanity and your peace of mind, and you still want to get a ficus that is variegated, Ficus tiniki, babes, get yourself a Ficus tiniki. You cannot go wrong with a Ficus tiniki. I feel like ficuses generally do not make the best house plants, but the rubber plants whether it is the Ficus Taniki, the Ficus Ruby. They're a bit more indoor friendly. Okay, so if you want that variegated ficus look and you want the ficus, get yourself a Ficus Taniki, love. Yeah, variegated Ficus triangularis. I actually will not wish it for my enemies, as the good Christian that I am. I will not. Okay, now this one is an entire genus. I know I said we're not gonna demonize the entire genus, but hold on. This one is an entire genus, but I found out how to navigate the genus and how to sieve the evil species in that genus from the good ones that you can grow in your homes. Okay, it's Pepperomia. The cuter the Pepperomia looks, the cuter and more innocent the Pepperomia looks, the cuter, the more petite, the more demure Pepperomias that look like this. Pepperomia crupia, Pepperomia rosco, whatever. Once you see Pepperomias that have this clustered growth profile and they look so cute and angelic, they are demons. They are evil spirits. Sorry if I sound dramatic, but they are actually not easy. They just suddenly, out of the blue, will typically die on you. Suddenly, they are doing fine. Suddenly, they are just like, So ask yourself, do you know anyone that got a Pepperomia rosco, whatever this plant is, that has it up till now? No one. I don't know anyone personally on this earth that buys this plant and it continues to stay in their care after 3 months or after 14 working days. Okay, so these cute ones, I think the good thing is that they are cheap, at least for you guys in the States. In this part of the world, they cost an arm and a leg, and only somebody who's unwise will spend so much on any one of these. But good thing is that they are cheap, so just buy them for, like, as they call, flower decoration. And once they start to decline, compost them. Okay, however, the trailing Pepperomias, there's something about a trailing Pepperomia. I don't know what it is, but the ones that can trail, the Pepperomia Hope, the Pepperomia Angulata, the Pepperomia Optisofolia, the string of turtles. We forget that is a Pepperomia. Actually, it's actually a Pepperomia. Those ones are stupendously easy and drought tolerant and subject to, my Pepperomia Optisofolia, I subject that babe to neglect, extreme neglect, and she does her thing. So if you're insisting on getting yourself a Pepperomia, you definitely want to get yourself these trailing ones. Avoid these cutie looking ones. Get yourself any one of these trailing ones and then you are good to go. By the way, if you haven't subscribed at this point, please have mercy and subscribe. I'm risking mosquito bites, plus this my plants that fell down. Have mercy and subscribe. And if the Lord encourages you to send a tip, send to my Buy Me a Coffee, please. Alright. Okay, this one, I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to throw the entire genus in the trash can, but I think for this one, I don't think they make good houseplants. Which is why they haven't really taken off in the houseplant market. I mean, they were introduced maybe a couple of years back, but they haven't really, become staples. Schismatoglottis, yeah, specifically the Schismatoglottis went, I can't pronounce the name. These evil plants, I don't bother to learn how to pronounce the name. Specifically this one. Now, the problem with this plant is that it is not actually a difficult plant. It actually grows fast. But the problem is that it is extremely thirsty. It is extremely thirsty, and most human beings that have a life, that have bills to pay, that have, other things to do with their lives, they honestly cannot keep up with how thirsty this plant is. Now, the issue with this plant is that once it is left to dry, even if by an inch, the spider mites, it will just attract the spider mites. It will just attract the spider mites. It has such a toxic relationship with spider mites. Anytime this plant is distressed, the spider mites will come. This is a plant that you need to grow in a self-watering pot. You need to grow in a self-watering pot, and you also need to ensure that even though it is growing in a self-watering pot or in a semi-hydro substrate or medium, it never dries out. If not, the spider mites will come and they will just create havoc, not just on that plant but in your collection. I once had a lush, beautiful specimen. I tried my best. I tried to grow it in like the most moisture retaining or salt clay soil. I tried to put so many things to ensure that the soil is moisture retaining, yet it wasn't enough, and I gave up. To Schismatoglottis wielandii, there have been other introductions, Schismatoglottis introductions into the plant market, but they haven't really caught on. So Schismatoglottis wielandii, no. So if you want that Schismatoglottis look and you like the patterning of the plant and the variegation, I think I have a better alternative for you that is the exact opposite. Aglaonimas! Girlies, look at this baby here. Look at this baby here. This is one of my longest lived plants. I got her as a small, tiny, insignificant rat. And look at where she is now. And the awesome thing is that this is a plant that doesn't honestly want you to water it often. I water this one pretty much once a month, honestly. And it's even growing in the most rubbish soil. It's literally growing in red clay. It doesn't care. I rarely have, I don't think I've ever had any pest issues with this one, certainly not spider mites, and it's very drought tolerant. Also, just like this Schismatoglottis, because the advantage that Schismatoglottis wielandii has is that it doesn't need a ton of light because it's so native to the thick rainforests of Borneo where it rains often. And I don't know why we thought it was going to make a good house plant. Anyways, but it doesn't need a ton of light. So babes, get this, please, as opposed to Schismatoglottis wielandii. Anyways, darlings, we actually come to the end of this point. But if you stick around for a few more minutes, you're gonna watch me clean up this mess that the Nigerian wind caused. Guys, I was able to salvage the situation. I was able to clean up, and with surprisingly very minimal damage. It was just this Alocasia leaf, this my poor Alocasia amazonica leaf that got snapped due to the weight of the plants on top of it. But outside of that, the plants are pretty much fine. And the culprit was this hook. I think it just started to bend, and it caused the plants to come tumbling down, but I was able to salvage it, clean up everything. These things do happen. It's not a big deal. These things do happen, and these plants will be fine. Anyways, thank you for sticking to the end of this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it and you liked it, and like and share if you did. See you in the next. I'm going to give you guys, I think I need to give you guys a tour. I think we're due for a tour of these plants. Okay. See you guys in the next one. Bye.